Sometimes it's just used to build up a room earlier. Sometimes it's used to skip 80% of a dungeon, so it varies a lot.
Oh yeah.
So the timer has started and both runners are underway here.
Alright, we are ready to go, everybody.
So both players... I'll let you explain it. Let you go on.
Oh, damn it. Alright, so the opening section, pretty simple. They'll be just trying to avoid a lot of things, although they'll be killing certain enemies at least, depending on which, whether or not they want to try and gather up a few more gems or if they're just looking for certain drops. The main drops they'll be hoping for from the black suited guards, which can drop a pipe ball or even not a super monster milk, sorry, a regular monster milk, which if they can get it, it's very rare as a drop, but it will speed up the opening boss of this run, the Ammo Baron. Because of his RNG, you're able to beat him a cycle sooner with that milk, as long as everything goes well.
Yeah, so far Maelin picking up a regular pike ball, which he can use in a number of places coming up, so we'll see where he decides to use that.
Yeah, this game is available on quite a few systems. I believe it's like the Wii U, the 3DS, Steam, PS4, Xbox One, and most recently the Nintendo Switch. Ironically, I believe it came out like pretty much the week of the tournament, actually, so good timing.
Yeah, I think it came out the Tuesday after the tournament started on the Monday, so Zic not choosing to use his pike ball there. So it'd be interesting to see if he does use it on just saving for Ammo Baron to negate bad RNG, or if he's got a use for it later on.
Yeah, opting to not use the pipe ball early. In other words, hopefully you'll be taking the boss fight on without it. As long as he scores just about enough damage by using his cannon strikes with his hair whips, he should be able to score just about enough and save that pipe ball for potentially some more gem drops. As both runners having their fun with Ammo Baron, and just to quickly run into him, as I've kind of left it a bit late, he has one of 3 attacks. He can charge you, he can shoot a black cannonball or a red cannonball, and the red cannonball is the one you want to knock him off the tank to score the damage. However, it is random as to which action he'll take, but we do know that once he starts shooting the cannonballs off, he will not start charging again until the next phase begins, so they can use that to their advantage.
Yeah, so Zic was heading into that fight quite a bit behind, but they had completely opposites of first phases. Zic just getting straight to red cannonball and Maelin getting 4 charges, so they're the complete extremes of the possible RNG there. Zic getting the best thing, Maelin getting the worst, but both players are fairly close together now.
Yeah, and that is a thing that will be in play with some of the bosses in the run, as well as other little set pieces that come into play where RNG will have an effect, although it's not something that will damage your run entirely, nor will it effectively kill you off. So within a race, so anything can go here. Anything can go. Shout out to Trapped Up, by the way. Always got to shout out to Trapped Up.
Yeah, and every single run Shantae falls for it. One day she'll learn her lesson.
I'm willing to bet that she doesn't. Just saying.
So Zic here starting the fight against the one and only Cacklebat will kill in the run. So as this is an any percent run, we don't need to kill them all to collect the dark magic, then you need to kill this one mandatory one. Both players getting it down, no problem at all.
Nicely done. First things first with Scott Town, before they can even leave to begin their adventure, 2 things they have to do. They need to collect the library card to, well, just to gain access into a palace a little bit on. They also need to put in a mandatory save, because Way Forward has insisted that we must be safe on our journey, at least this early on, so before they could pass the guard at the far right there. That's 2 of the things they'll need to do.
Yeah, they don't care about at any other point during the run, just want to make sure you have that save early on.
Yeah, long as they see that you've gone off safe, you're on your own after that.
So Zic now heading into the Scarecrow Fields. What he'll be doing here is charging through as many scarecrows as possible, hoping to get either gems or, more importantly, some item drops. Like you can get a regular pike ball, a super pike ball, or a monster milk, as well as a couple food drops, but that'll be what he's hoping for. Unfortunately, he doesn't get any of them. Let's see what Maelin gets.
Yeah, luckily it's not really a time loss. In fact, it's not really a time loss at all to actually take the kills in there, because I mean, you may have noticed with each kill that you get with the risky boots, it does stutter Shantae a bit, but with each consecutive kill, it shortens it down to the point where it doesn't stutter you at all. So I think a full charge connection hits is probably what, a second and a half at the very most.
Yeah, it's probably maybe even less than a second. It's not very long at all. Yeah, both players getting unlucky there and not getting any drops on the way. Zic using both players trying to do a pogo trick of getting stuck between the ceiling and the snakes. Bounce off them multiple times, you effectively kill them multiple times, getting multiple drops. Zic getting lucky and getting 3 off the first one, and then getting hit and only doing 1 kill on the second one, not getting any drops, but thankfully, as he got the 3 he needed off the first one, he's good to go. Maelin not quite that lucky in having to go into the room on the right to pick up his additional flesh pops that he needed.
Yeah, at least both runners getting what they at least need to open up the start of this venture. As they'll be going to get the first map to exit this island.
Yeah, so both players not doing overly well on gems, but they'll have all they need for the first shot. 20 gems is all they'll need for their usual strategy of 3 pirate flares and a super pike ball.
Yeah, it's the most common starting shot that runners would usually go for, but it can be altercated. It depends on what drops they get from the scarecrow fields. I mean, getting a super pike ball early will enable them to not purchase it. That gives them additional gems, or they may opt to still purchase it, or even pick up 1 or 2 different items that could help them very much so.
Yeah, and Zic getting a pike ball there. So you'll have seen Zic not kill those orcs there. That's because your charge gets damaged up the more monsters you kill. To begin with, you don't have enough damage to do it. However, as you see on Maelin's side, he's using a pike ball. This will allow him to charge through these orcs, get some additional drops like that bento box, or some additional gems. Maelin getting 2 pike balls there. Zic got 2 pike balls as well on his way.
Yeah, I believe so. Not necessarily the most ideal items I want, but it's certainly something that will help him a little bit later on in just speeding up 1 or 2 little sections.
Yeah, Maelin getting a super pike ball off the very last scarecrow, so be interesting to see if he decides to basically turn that into money by not buying 1 here, or keeping it as an item and still buying the regular super pike ball he would buy here. Nice. And he chooses to skip buying the super pike ball, so he effectively that scarecrow effectively dropped 40 gems for him.
Pretty much so. That will help him towards doing a potential 2-shop strategy route, as well as giving him that extra finance to possibly stock up and be able to get a stronger item when he gets to the when he comes to do his next shopping list. He's now going through second island, Saliva Island, pretty much aiming to move up into the right, belt the hell out of some ham just to get some ham sting to activate the old Gigalumix.
Yeah, so at the Gigalumix they'll be probably attempting 2 tricks as Zic misses the first one. The most common trick is you'll see him pausing and unpausing 3 times after releasing the hammer stink. What that does is skips a blinking animation, saving a few seconds. The other skip is if you fall off the edge as you're talking to the Gigalumix or activating him, you fall down and again you save some time by skipping an animation or getting a shorter animation out of it. Because Maelin just goes for the pause and doesn't even try falling down.
Yeah, there's a bit of a risk going for that cut there, because if you end up doing it slightly too late, you'll just shoot your pistol off and fall down, costing you time. So
Zic with the Petrify spell in hand will be going to deliver it to a man who wants to use the petrify spell to unpetrify his wife, who's been turned to stone. Doesn't go exactly according to plan, though.
Petrifies people. Who would have thought? At least the old man tried.
And coincidentally for us, he opens the entrance to the first dungeon. I don't know what we would have done otherwise.
Well, there are other means, but they're illegal in this tournament.
Yeah, as we're doing no out of bounds, unfortunately we can't use a trick that is done in the out of bounds run to get in there. So Zic heading into Spittle Maze and heading into the area of the game that's a secret area that's an homage to the Game Boy Color version. So what he'll be doing here is picking up 2 keys. The way keys work in this game is that they are global. They're not tied to a specific dungeon. So by collecting the keys here, you'll then use them much later on in the run to save a lot of time that you'd normally have to do to collect the intended keys for that area.
Yeah.
So Maelin going for an animation skip here, and he gets it. So by using a food item as you're picking up a key, you do the food eating animation instead of the item pickup animation, which is slightly quicker, saving you 2 or 3 seconds each time you get it.
Yeah, and any additional food that they have, if they choose not to use it for safety, they'll probably be using it for said animation skip. Just saves a good couple of seconds of time.
Getting 2 pieces of food in that room there, so yeah, he could choose to use those later on as for animation skipping, or just use them for safety.
As he'll be coming up to the wetman room, and you'll notice when he gets there that you've got 2 wetmen, or 2 enemies there, which he's going to try to manipulate into one corner, and then essentially just bounce off of them. That's primarily because the scimitar will do damage to multiple enemies, whereas a cannon strike will only hit one of them, so it just makes it quicker to take 2 down with 1 scimitar. I would say 2 birds with 1 stone, but that would have been silly. 2 wetmen with 1 scimitar, that's right.
Everyone knows you can't take birds out of this game. They're too powerful.
We are not unbeatable. That's all I'm going to say.
We'll see. There's Zic now entering the first main boss fight of the game against Cyclops Plant.
Yeah, the Cyclops Plant, they'll be able to do the same thing, similar thing to what they did with the snakes in the sewers. In the first phase, just getting trapped in between the ceiling and the eyeball, straight off the bat to pretty much rip him through. Phase 2, position themselves up to try and then cannon up and do the same thing by positioning themselves in the right point, hitting the scimitar at the right point, and just constantly score major damage by hitting between the roof and the eyeball.
Yeah, Zic having a little trouble here in the second phase. Managed to recover fairly well, but it still cost him quite a bit of time, almost an extra full cycle's worth.
Zic did okay in that fight, from what I can make out. I believe Maelin did have a little mishap with the first phase, but got him down pretty quickly, so no harm, no foul.
Yeah, Maelin having a little better second phase than Zic did, so making up a little bit of time, but not much, and there's still not much between the 2 runners.
It can go either way still. They'll be making their way to next island, Spiderweb Island. This is home of probably one of the most loved/hated. Let's call it the most Marmite section of the run.
I mean, I hate it, you love it. We all know about that. It's Run Run Rotty Top.
Why do people think I love that section? you meanie. Well, nice comeback, Turkey.
Got me good there.
Yeah. Haven't.
So Zic here collecting a fossil, which in a normal playthrough of the game you'd have to come back a lot later for this. Thankfully, as we're playing pirate mode, we have all the items necessary to pick it up now and save us having to backtrack later. Zic is now heading in to Run Rotty Top, so do you want to explain how it works?
I try to forget it every day, but I will do my best to explain it. Run Rotty Tops is this game's version of an auto-scroller, essentially. They'll be faced with several different enemies, ranging from some grabby hands, some licky tongues, kissy robots, some hellacious tombstones, and an enemy dubbed the Stevens, as it seems to be these days. There's not much you can do in terms of time save here. There's a few things that they can do. They can cut by some of the tongues. They can manipulate one or two enemies around them. But apart from that, they're just going to pretty much stay tried and true and try not to get hit, because in this area you don't actually have any health. But anytime you get hit, you'll get sent straight back to the beginning of the screen that you were on. So pretty much any hit late parts of any room can cost you a good amount of time.
Yeah, Zic gets gatekeepered once there and decides to take it safe the second time round. So the reason we call that enemy the gatekeeper is that most runners will choose just to try and run past him. Sometimes he will decide, no, you're not coming through, and tongue you, sending you back to the beginning of the room. Or, like just saw in Maelin's case, he'll let you straight through. If you get caught once, there's not much. I think it's about the same as waiting for the tongue to drop and then going through safely. So you're not really losing any time by attempting to go through him.
As long as he lets you through in the first or second attempt, you're really not going to be losing much.
Yeah, as you can see, the vast majority of this area is just waiting for these spikes to come up and down. Not much you can do in there. You can jump, you can walk back and forth in a little bit. That's about what you can do. However, none of that saves you any time. Just need to try and not fall asleep during this section.
Well, all they gotta do is think of Run Body Wash, and that'll certainly keep them going.
So Zic choosing to take it safe there on that last tongue we'll see for a while. Doesn't really cost him any time. If you go past that tongue, you still have to wait for the spikes below every single time, so he's choosing to play it safe rather than take a death there.
Yeah, and that's a fair enough call. As you say, there's no risk of losing any real time there. With the tombstones, as you saw Zic go by, we at least know which tombstones can stand up, so we know exactly which ones to try and avoid. However, they're random as to when or if they even choose to stand up. So, general rule of thumb would be they will jump over every tombstone that they know has the potential to stand up. That way, they can at least evade risk of one of them just coming up and just saying hello and knocking them back to the beginning of the room.
Yeah, unfortunately, Maelin taking a death there. Yeah, jumped into one just as he came to life, so taking a death now to go back to the beginning of the room. Not the most costly death you can get in this section, but still something you don't want to have happen.
Damn commentator's curse. I blame myself.
So Zic coming up to the aforementioned Stevens now. I'm not 100% sure why they're Stevens, but they are Stevens.
We don't ask questions. They got called Stevens, we all started calling them Stevens. They are Stevens. Pretty much. At least that's how it seems to have happened.
And the gate's closed for Zic here, so he has to wait. He might have to, yeah, he does. He just chooses to wait. Nope, never mind, he chooses to jump into the little Steven. That's an interesting choice.
Oh dear.
But he gets through the room, no trouble on the second time of asking.
Yeah, he's still got an advantage at this point, so I mean, of course he's not going to want to take any more hits, but so far not too bad from both runners, getting through pretty well, to be fair.
Yeah, and the gates are closed for Maelin as well, so has to wait. Those gates can be open for you now, those spikes can be nice to you and just stay open. saving your cycle as Maelin decides to jump into a big Steven, as Zic decides to jump into a tombstone.
So much love for the Stevens right now.
Yeah, Zic taking a very unfortunate death at the end of the final room, one of the longest rooms in here. One of the two longest, I'm not sure which one is actually longer, but taking a death to one of the tombstones right at the end, that's going to be a good, what, 30-40 second time loss?
For the final room, I believe it's roughly 30 seconds towards the end, as, again, it's not the most nicest of rooms. I mean, everything that they've been through with Run Run is coming into play in this particular room. I do believe the room probably just before the straight with the 3 tombstones in is probably more of a time loss if you get caught near the end. But I'm not 100% on that, to be honest.
Yeah, and this room's definitely a lot more difficult, especially towards the end with these tombstones and tongues, but Maelin gets through it no trouble at all. I think they're about 16 seconds between them, leaving Runner and Rotty top, so very, very close indeed.
And it's at the end of Run Run where they find out that Rotty Top's lied to her. At the beginning, she claimed to have gotten bitten by that big giant spider, and she can't use her legs. Turns out she was just lazy.
Yeah, but she did find the Run Run Rotty Top skip. She didn't have to go through that section herself, so...
Envy.
So both players handing in the squid oil they picked up on the first island to get a shriveled thing. What's something people should know about the shriveled thing, Turkey?
It smells.
It does indeed.
Yep. That's pretty much it. It smells. And it's very important because it's one of the very few text boxes in the game that you cannot skip. So, remember, it smells.
So Zic entering Cackle Tower here, the second dungeon of the game. So there was a key they could have picked up in the first dungeon. However, most players choose to get a key here instead because there's an additional chance of getting an item drop, either a super pike ball, a super monster milk, or a pirate flare. Plus there's a couple more enemies on the way. There's 5 more enemies you kill that also have the chance to drop a super pike ball, so definitely worth going for, and it's only a little bit slower.
To be fairly honest, from what I remember timing, I believe between the two keys they're pretty much the same. Roughly, I think, but it's been a while since I timed that room, so I might have to retry it just to be sure, but
so Zic getting
either way, you're not going to lose.
Zic getting a super pike ball from one of the skeletons. And he gets a pirate flare from the Bat Gal.
Ow. I mean, to be fairly honest, usually the pirate flare is probably the rarest item to get from the Bat Lady. It's happened in back-to-back races now.
Yeah, it's definitely the rarest one to get, and the one you probably want the least, as Maelin gets a super monster milk, so he's going to be very happy with that. Depending what you use the pirate flares for, it is really only a 10 gold to 10 gem difference between a pirate flare and a super pike ball, if you choose just to not buy one extra. So it's not a huge difference, but you definitely want the super monster milk, as that is worth 75 gems.
Yeah, definitely. Having a major offensive item is certainly worth it. But if having the pirate flare early is not too much of a major, I mean, they could choose to opt to just save the gems and purchase one flare less, and it does also help in enabling them to go for a 2-shot potential as well. So, be interested to see how he plays with that flare. Well, Maelin may choose to use the Super Monster Milk on the next boss, but we'll see on that front. Speaking of the next boss, the Emperor Spider. If you'd like to explain the funs and joys of taking on that beastly foe.
Yeah, definitely. So Zic here choosing to a safety save before it. So I imagine he's going to be going for the advanced strategy, the quickest strategy, although extremely risky. So both players are neck and neck heading to this boss fight. What you can do is if you get into the Emperor Spider's hitbox, you can basically stay there, damage her a lot with the super pike balls and your whip, and if you happen to whip just before you get hit, you actually don't get knocked back, as you normally do when you get hit, and it refreshes your jump, so basically you can keep yourself suspended in the hitbox, do constant damage with the super pike balls and your hair whipping, and take down the boss very fast. But it is extremely difficult to do, and it is very risky as well, because towards the end of the fight you'll usually end with 1 health left, sometimes you might even end up using your auto potion, which you definitely don't want to do.
Yeah, this early on in the run, especially in a race format, losing that safety net could put you on edge.
Yeah, Maelin deciding to use a bento box, a bit of food to heal himself up, rather than risk taking a hit and using the auto potion.
And that's a fair enough call.
But both players getting through that boss fight with no issues at all, and maybe about 20 seconds apart, not even that, so yep, still very, very close together. But Maelin does have the advantage of that super monster milk, so a small advantage, but an advantage nonetheless to help him catch up.
Yeah, both going to be taking the next sections, probably, well, in terms of item management, probably a little bit differently, obviously getting the different... getting different items from that Bat Lady, so I'd be interested to see how they play this, how they play their item management from this point on. They'll be making their way to Tanline Island. This area is pretty much where the majority of the drops that they're going to want is going to be from this island. So if RG wants to be nice, they could set them up for the entirety of the run. However, if it wants to be cruel, they'll have to take an alternate method by potentially gathering up gems or even grinding on certain enemies to be able to up their odds there. I mean, fortunately for Zic, I'm pretty sure he at least got a monster milk going through.
Yeah, he did, and he got a super monster milk off the Skull Gal, as Maelin also got a monster milk on his way through, and he also gets a super monster milk off the Scorp Gal, so both players seem to be playing the same seed here, even though we don't have seeds in this game.
No, we don't. I mean, we had a tournament race earlier on in the tournament where RNG was relatively similar for both runners, and it seems like it's happening again. So none of them's going to be getting any real distinct advantage from the RNG item management side.
It's very odd how I've had a few runs where there's sort of the opening Am I Baron fight goes exactly the same, and that one's very RNG heavy. So both players now heading back to do some backtracking and a fetch quest to go get 3 sarcophagi, get some codes off those to open the entrance into the Townline Temple. So first they'll be heading to Saliva Island.
Being asked when the Half Genie Hero tournament could be. Well, there could be one later in the year. You never know.
So Zic there picking up the code from the sarcophagus, using one of his pirate flares to head back to the ship, and now we'll be heading to Scuttletown to pick up the last island, and also we'll be doing a shop here, so it'll be interesting to see exactly what he decides to buy.
For sure. We're also going to double confirm that Petrify does exactly what Petrify should do as well.
Rip Joe.
Yeah.
So Zic getting the second mummy sketch there, and now he'll head down into the shop. So only getting 3 pirate flares and a super monster milk. That was all the money he had. So well planned by him. So that means he'll be doing another shop later on. So let's see what Maelin decides to do. Quickly checks his items before heading in.
It might depend with Zic. He did actually get that pirate flare drop, so although he is technically 1 flare shorter than an ideal run, he may opt to, if he opts to skip the second shop, he isn't going to lose too much time by doing so. But he probably will just to at least pick up some more additional items just to ensure that he is definitely going to have what he wants to have for the run.
Is it me, or did Maelin not get any pirate flares?
I unfortunately missed it. I'm not too sure, but I would have thought he would have.
Yeah, so he's got 119 gems. He's got and a super pipe ball, as Zic gets a super pipe ball as well. I don't think he did. I think he just bought some pike balls and monster milks.
Interesting.
Maelin getting another super pipe ball, and I think even another one on his way back through, so I think he might be good for super pipe balls for the rest of the run now. Didn't quite see how many Zic got, but he did get at least one.
and that's where the Risky Revenge tournament's happening. Maybe. I have a feeling after this tournament there's going to be quite a few more Shantae tournaments being planned. The people demand it, we must deliver.
So Zic heading into Tanline Temple now, an area that's also dubbed Metal Gear Shantae. So the way this area works is it's a stealth section, hence why Metal Gear Shantae. You have to go through several rooms trying to avoid the guards. If you get seen by any of the guards, as Nori very kindly demonstrated on his last run, you get sent back to the beginning of the room, beginning of the area in the first jail. This is also where the keys we got earlier will come in handy.
Yeah, definitely. The keys that they stockpiled up early on in the run will come to play here, as mentioned. It essentially cuts out about 2/3 of the entirety of Tanline Temple. So it's a very nice sizable time save, so it's definitely worth doing.
So Zic getting the first half of the quick cycle in the final room. Let's see if he goes for the full one. No, not choosing to jump over the last guard, as Maelin hesitates a bit on the chain just to make sure he doesn't get seen, make sure he doesn't pull a Nori. Yeah, Maelin taking it safe on the last room as well.
Yeah, nicely done.
So yeah, you'll see them using the keys here to save the 3 female companions, let's call them, in the run. As Maelin makes it through the final room with no issues at all.
So as they end up this area, pretty much the story of Tanline Temple is they've all been mistaken for the princess. And as it turns out, she didn't go very far. She literally just went to the shops for some French bread. Gone for a good 30 minutes, I think it was. So, yeah. Crazy cult leader is crazy.
But they do get the golden pickaxe out of it, so if that hadn't happened, they would have no way of getting to the next dungeon, so works out for Shantae again. So with the path open, both players will be heading to the next dungeon. Interesting to see if either of them decides to kill any Scorp Gals on the way through, hoping for some more potential drops.
It is certainly a possibility. The Scorp Gals themselves have a potential drop of giving them a Super Monster Milk, Super Pipe Ball, or 5 gems. You're guaranteed to get one of the 3, although the percentages are more in favour of the gems. So it's down to a risk-reward type strategy, whether or not they choose to go for it and potentially get the items, or just take on the enemies that are literally mandatory to kill. They'll be making their way into the next dungeon, the Lost Catacombs. Lost Catacombs, you usually pick up the scimitar here, but fortunately, being pirate mode, they've already got it, so they'll pretty much be heading down and making their way directly to the boss. But they'll have a few little obstacles to overcome first before they make it there.
Yeah, this purple block room that Zic's in now can be very tricky at times. The cactuses can just group up on you. You can take a while to break through those blocks with the scimitar strap we use, but Zic gets through no trouble at all, and he did pick up a bubble shield, which he will need for the final boss fight.
Yeah, that bubble shield is definitely important for the final fight, knowing what Pirate Master can do.
So Maelin has to be careful here, as Zic chooses to use a bit of food to heal up. Maelin is 1 hit away from death, as Zic gets the Super Monster Milk off the last Scorp Gal. Maelin, oh no, does use his auto potion.
Oh, spoke too soon. Again, my bad.
Zic not getting the one cycle on the Crushers. As Maelin gets a Super Pike Ball off one of the Scorp Gals. And Zic choosing to use the safety save before Squid Baron here.
And that's fair enough, especially with some risk of getting crashes, as well as how Squid Baron can be, because the Squid Baron fight itself is pretty much a scripted fight. We know what attacks he's going to do and in what order. Because of that, as he comes in 2 phases, by killing him at a certain point of his script, we're going to know what his next attack is going to be, as well as be able to manipulate his second phase into going to the Eaton phase is what we really want, so we can whale as much damage as we can, considering he can't heal as quick as we can hurt him.
Yep,
so be able to play that to their advantage.
Both players using Super Pike Ball and Super Monster Milk here. Zic having a little bit of trouble, as is Maelin. Maelin also choosing to get the safety save. But yeah, Zic gets it perfectly well and goes straight into the eating phase of Squid Baron. So that's a very nice kill by him, despite the hits.
Nice.
As Maelin gets Squid Baron into his second phase, but is only down to half a heart, so he has to be careful here without that auto potion. Another hit and he will die and have to reload the save. But he too gets Squid Baron into his eating phase, so he should be able to finish him off before taking any damage. And he does indeed.
Yeah, nice second phases for both. Advantage of having the 2 strongest items, just time the opening attack right and the rest is history. Bye bye Squiddy.
So Zic picking up the Mudbog map as Maelin's about to pick his up. Before they head to Mudbog Island though, they will hopefully both remember to go to Scuttletown and pick up the Death Mask, which is required to get into the next area of the game.
Yeah, it's always a disheartening feeling if you forget that Death Mask, get to the end and it's just like, and access denied. So you really don't want that with Mudbog.
So Maelin's looking confused here as he doesn't have a Pirate Flare.
Yes, it turns out he didn't purchase the flares. I'm not sure why.
And he has quit from the race. He has forfeited from the race. I think he simply forgot to get the Pirate Flares. I'm not sure why he forfeited. He could have ran back, but...
Yeah, I'm not too sure why he chose to opt out there, but...
Zic having...
That is a possibility, actually. If Maelin is more used to the out-of-bounds strategy, the thing with out-of-bounds runs is because you use a trick to bypass the stealth temple itself. What would happen is if you don't have a flare and you run back to that screen where the block wall is, it actually outright crashes the game. But because there's no out-of-bounds, he could have ran back. He might have just got mistaken there. And yeah, sorry for crossing over you there, Majoti.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, Zic having a little trouble getting into the next area. The 4 screens, or 5 if you count the saving, you have to run through here, are very tricky to do. And if you hit the ceiling once, you can very easily get swarmed by enemies, which did happen to Zic there, but thankfully he got through, I believe, without using his auto potion, so not a huge time loss.
Yeah, the Village of Lost Souls fun area. You'll be aiming to get 3 keys out of here. 3 keys? Wow, I don't know the game. 3 coins, sorry. Which will be used for a mini game. We simply know heads and tails. Very basic stuff, but it's an RNG section where pretty much you've got to guess your way through, so we just go for heads all the time, so that's the option you usually start on, and hope that you get each of the 3 gamers correct. Fortunately, there is a failsafe in there where if you fail the gamers 3 times, the 4th one is always going to be a guaranteed victory. So, at least they're not going to be held. He's not going to be held there for all day.
Yeah, so Zic thinking he was playing Mario for a second then, trying to jump on one of the Reapers. Unfortunately, that made him use his auto potion, so he is now auto potionless for the rest of the run unless he chooses to buy another one. He's just going to go pick up the third coin here before heading to the gamers.
So what do you reckon? Do you reckon they're going to be cruel or kind?
Can they be kind? Is that possible?
We saw it in the last race for I believe Mangard got all heads in his race
That
earlier.
is true,
so
yeah.
it's possible.
But not 2 in a row. They're usually at least 50 runs apart.
Oh, that's being generous.
Yeah, and Maelin confirming he just forgot to pick up the pirate flares. And Zic going for the heads, tails strategy, and it pays off. Every time I've tried that recently, it's been heads, heads. So I didn't know that could even work. Zic out mind gaming the gamers there.
It is an RNG section, so it is literally up to the game, but you don't usually see that, but it turned out to be a very good call, and, well, it may not have been heads, but it was a perfect game, as that's 2 in a row. Wow. Fair play. That's actually a very good question. What would happen if Zic dies in his run? Honestly, I'm not 100%. I would assume it would be down to a reschedule.
I mean, he could still continue the run. He did save before Squid Baron, so he can continue running. That is
true. That is actually true. He could just continue. But I mean, if he does die and forfeit out, then I would assume it would be a reschedule. But I'm not the best person to ask.
Yeah, it'd be a rematch between the two. So if Zic doesn't finish the run, then yeah, it'll be a rematch.
Right, yeah. Just to mention briefly on the on this lab, the Oubliette Suffering. Mentioned earlier about the risky shuffle and how we can use that to our advantage in tighter spaces. I believe it was also mentioned earlier about skipping a big chunk out of a temple, and this is the one that is going to come into play. Because you could pretty much just outright just skip everything and just go straight to the boss.
So Zic choosing to get a save here before entering the Dagron fight. I don't blame him, especially without that auto potion. Dagron can be one of the worst boss fights to do.
Yeah, Dagron's a finicky boss fight.
Yeah, easy if you get hit to basically get out of cycle and just ganged up on over and over again and just lose a lot of health very quickly before you can get back into the rhythm of it. Zic choosing very carefully what items to use, going for a regular Monster Milk and using his only Super Pike Ball. So he'll probably be picking up at least 2 more of those in his next shop, although he does have to get 2 Pirate Flares, I believe, so he only has 20 gems. That's not enough for another Super Pike Ball.
I'm just trying to... couldn't quite catch if he's got 1 or 2 Super Monster Milks. If he's got 2 Super Monster Milks, he might be perfectly fine with that. But yes, I believe he only bought 3 flares from the first shop, but if I remember rightly, he did get a flare drop from the Bat Lady, so he only needs to purchase 1 more if he chooses to take that third shop. As mentioned, if he doesn't take that first shop, it's not going to cost him a great deal. It'll just cost him the time to run out of after the Forgotten Factory. So we'll see what he chooses to go for. But I'll say if he does choose to use shop, he may consider getting a couple of extra gems along the way to possibly get another Super Pike Ball just to make his final end game a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, he could choose to kill the wolves in Frostbite, or if he does have that Pirate Flare, he could choose to kill the scarecrows on his way to Branson, hoping for either a Super Pike Ball drop or just more money.
Very true, and that's one very interesting thing with running this game, because of how certain things can work. There's no real one way of going about it, and depending on what kind of drops you get, you can very well alter how you approach the remainder of the run. So it's very interesting in that regard.
So Zic now heading to Frostbite Island. where he'll be running through the area before having to do the final backtracking of the game.
Interesting. Does he still have his auto potion?
No, Zic used it. But he used it in Village of Lost Souls.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh well, rip auto potion jump.
So it looks like Zic is choosing to go over all the walls and not kill them, although he's doing a very good job of precisely timing his cannon shots to hit them anyway. Something that is difficult to do, but I manage it every time. Yeah, Maelin confirming that he just was completely thrown off there, which is why he gave up and decided to forfeit from the race. Yeah, definitely very unfortunate. It was a very good race up to that point. Zic now entering Propeller Town, which is final area, final non-dungeon area of the game really. At this point in the time you would have every single item except for the cannon, which does allow you to do some skips, such as in this room here where he basically just flies over everything with the use of the hat and the cannon and the dash. So a few little time saves he can have in this area over just using the hat to float.
Yeah, it's a nice area to traverse through as well. You get to see how multiple pieces of the Pirate Master's equipment actually blend very well together to get you through. So some nice movement tech going on by Zic.
Yeah, up until he hit his head and then hit a spike landing in the pit, but other than that, it's going well.
Seriously, I swear my commentating is cursing everyone right now. Say something positive and then something goes wrong. I'm so sorry, runners. I apologise.
Oh, and Zic falling at the end of the long room as well. So that's quite a big time loss there, but he makes it through second time.
Yes, I'm confirming Shantae and the Turkey's first club.
Crazy.
Did say I'm not commentating anymore.
Did Zic's screen fall down here as he did the screen transition, or am I crazy? No, it did. That's really weird.
That can happen sometimes. I'm not exactly sure why it does that. I think it's sort of like hitting a loading zone at a particular point, but I'm really not too sure why that does happen.
Yeah, taking another death, but finally gets to Bolo, grabbing the module off him, which will only go well because we all know Bolo is very, very competent. And he'll be heading back to Spiderweb Island and then to Scuttletown to do the last few fetch quest things.
I'm sure he's done that targeting module very, professional. Nothing can go wrong. Is now doing the next set of fetch quests to be able to access the final dungeon. First off, making their way to the House of Rotti, because as it turns out, zombies know a lot about souls. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also handing back in the Death Mask to get a pirate flare there, which will be very useful later on. And yeah, it'll be interesting what he does in Scuttletown. If he does decide to do another shop, will he do it now or after Scarecrow Fields? He's going to be doing, if he is doing it, he's doing it after Scarecrow Fields. And he is killing all the Scarecrows, so we'll be hoping for some gems, and if he's really lucky, a super pike will drop or two.
Hopefully he will validate the run here as well.
So getting no super pike ball, unfortunately. And only getting 5 gems off of 3 orcs at the end, that's very unlucky. So I don't know what he's going to plan for, but we will see shortly. And unless he adjusts, his run is not going to be valid. Well, he did adjust, but it wasn't quite enough.
Ooh, whoopsie. Well, I guess we can say validated. Okay, at least attempted to really.
His heart was in the right place. Zic now using the Soul of Joe to resurrect Joe from stone, and then he decides to leave Sky after that. Too much trouble being around her.
We get to see if Bolo's professional construction of the Darkton module works.
Unfortunately not, but fortunately for us, Shantae is very fortunate. All these things keep going in her favour to open the entrances to these dungeons. And that's the entrance to the abandoned factory open, as Zic now heading into the shop.
So yeah, he was off by a couple of islands. Whoops.
Zic not buying another pirate flare, but choosing to buy 3 potions and a super pike ball.
Interesting. So he's obviously going to be running out of frostbite once he's done with the abandoned factory. Luckily, that really isn't a major time loss. I believe it's around the 6-second margin. So
it's about the same as what you'd save with the potions.
Yeah, well, with the 3 potions stacked, he should be able to save a little more time in comparison. So it's a good call from Zic.
Yeah, unfortunately, 1 gem short of being able to afford that pirate flare as well. And he's choosing to take this save here before Steel Maggot, so that will, yeah, as he doesn't have his auto potion, he just wants to take things very, very safe.
Yeah, that's a fair enough call. I mean, the boss of this lab can rip you quite badly if he wants to. He's not too bad overall, but again, a bit like Dagran, he can very well destroy you if he wants.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Zic has a spare bubble shield or not, but if not, you have to take it very safe and very slow. As he grabs his final key now, and gets hit by the ice block. Just clipped him on his way through, getting sent back to the start of the room. Very unfortunate.
Yeah, that ice block can be a troll. Unfortunately for Zic there, but he'll get back through and begin his fight with the Steel Maggot. Better known as RNG the boss to a lot of people. As you may notice, he'll have 3 buttons on his back. You've pretty much got to hit them in a particular order to expose the tail off the maggot in order to cause damage. The combination to this is random every time though. It changes each phase as well as within each run. So once that tail's exposed, he'll be aiming to score as much damage as possible and then go back to figuring out the next combination to then continue the fight and just destroy. But so far, so good, I believe.
Yeah, he got that first pattern down without any reds at all. Second one he has a bit more trouble with, but gets it no issue at all, although missing there. But yep, there he goes. And this should hopefully be enough. He did readjust during the first phase, so he might be a bit short, and he is a bit short on damage there.
Oh.
Yeah, he would have been better off in that first phase just continuing to whip it. As long as you get pike ball damage in one of the 2 phases, with the Super Monster Milk, that's enough damage.
And with the Super Monster Milk, you actually don't need the pipe ball to round him. Fortunately, but
yeah, so safer with a pike ball, but yeah, gets it with only 1 hit and 1 more pike ball hit.
Was literally like 1 strike away. Damn.
Oh yeah.
So now it is time to pay the Pirate Masters of the Grave a visit, just to make sure he's not up to any shenanigans. I wonder.
Yep, so running back through Frostbite before heading to the The lonely grave. Now, will Zic attack the bird here or not? He jumps, but doesn't jump fully. And surprise, the Pirate Master is back to life.
And not a happy chap. As it turned out, Risky used to work for the Pirate Master once upon a time and decided to call upon a mutiny against him during the Great Genie War once upon a time. And yeah, he's one to hold a grudge, so he's gonna cause some pain for him, I'm sure, as I try and stutter through my explanation.
So Zic heading towards the Pirate Master's Palace, as it is now known, as the Pirate Master has decided to move in. And where he'll be doing the climb at the end. So normally what you'd have to do is go through, I think it's 3 Pirate Master trials, which are very difficult rooms. Fortunately, using very precise platforming, use of your cannon and your hat, you can entirely skip those sections. But it is a very, very hard trick to do, very precise indeed. But Zic getting it down 1 time, no trouble. There's 2 more times you have to do it. And there's a couple of optional places you can to save a little bit of time. And Zic gets the 2nd one, no trouble as well. Let's see how he does on the 3rd and final one. And he gets that, no trouble at all. Very, very nice indeed.
Yeah, nicely done by Zic, and I had to stay silent there, because if I'd have said anything, we probably would have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, probably ended up falling through the floor somehow as well. as he chooses to take the final save before Pirate Master, and again, without the auto potion, that's a very smart thing to do, as Pirate Master can kill you in 1 hit.
Yeah, that is definite confirmation on that. He has a bullet spread attack, which will one-shot you, hence why the bubble shield is definitely valuable. Apart from that, though, he'll pretty much be teleporting around and about the place, and just got to keep up with him, wail on him, and GG, pretty much. And yeah, as mentioned in the chat here, I believe Zic is on for a nice personal best here as well.
His PB's listed as 57.35, so I think he'll just miss it.
Oh, is it? Oh, alright. I thought his PB was a little more than that. Alright, my bad.
Yeah, I think it might have been in his last race he got it higher. But they're taking down Pirate Master, no trouble at all. So Zic finishing in 1st place with an official SRL time of 57 minutes and 56 seconds. Congratulations to him.
GG. He is here, so if you'd like to bring him in, we'll bring him Zic for a post-interview.
Congratulations, Zic, on that victory. How do you feel about that run?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. GG to Maelin. I'm sorry about what happened. That's really rough.
Yeah, unfortunately, he forgot to buy pirate flares in Scuttletown, so when he finished Squid Baron, he was just like, wait, well, I don't have any pirate flares? What do you now?
Yeah, I feel like... Yeah, I can imagine that would throw you off completely. But overall, I feel like I played pretty well. I played a really well beginning game, I felt like, and then once I hit, Frostbite Island, I felt like I fell apart drastically. I had a horrible propeller sound.
Yeah, it's been decided that was my fault.
The good old commentator's curse.
In so many places, I've kept saying I was going well, and then all of a sudden something went wrong. I forgot to say, just shut up, Turkey. So yeah, I apologise.
No worries. Yeah, I was having some weird issues with the hat. It would lag when I pull it out, and it's just all sorts of messed up stuff. But
He had a really good strategy for the gamers, though, going for the heads, tails strategy.
I always go for
you.
heads, tails.
Well, it worked out. It gave you the perfect gamers, and overall a decent run. I believe again you keep it, because like a lot of runners, keep them consistent with your performances and get your first W on the board. So, sure, you're feeling pretty good about yourself there so far.
Yeah, moving forward towards my next matches, I'd really like to be able to get my consistency and my average time down a little lower. I'd like to be closer to that, 55 range to feel a little safer moving forward.
Yeah, that's fair enough. If I remember, you had okay RNG. Unfortunately, getting the flare from the Bat Lady, which you probably wasn't too happy with, but I mean, at least it was a drop. So
that happens more times than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, it seems to happen to a few people. I think it's just particular people. They're just it's just going to be a flare. That's it. Apart from that, any other thoughts on your run in general?
No, I think, overall went pretty well. I was happy to make it through. I've been having a lot of trouble with Tanline Temple lately, so I was happy to make it through that without messing anything up. But, just got to work on my boss fights, I think, and really that's all I have for next time.
Yeah, that's fair. I believe that was your second race, so you're halfway done, so 2 to go. Right, so let's see if Maelin would like to jump in for post-interview or not.
Yeah, he's not around. Let's see. Yeah, well, we see if Maelin wants to come in. The next Shantae race we have will be tomorrow at 3 PM EDT, which will be 17 Bird versus Trenta TR. That'll be a very, very interesting race indeed. I believe 17 Bird is 2-1, and Trenta is 1-1 now after his race yesterday, I believe it was. So that'll be interesting indeed, and could decide the fate of that group depending on the result there.
Indeed, yeah, that group has been opening up more and more. We've mentioned it's pretty much the death group so far from all the groups that were set. So the next few races in there could very well determine who's going to potentially qualify.
Yeah, we have Maelin ready, so let's bring him in for an interview. Hello. Yeah, I don't know what to say after that run. Do you wanna? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's just my brain was pretty much on autopilot. And I always have notes beside me, but I guess for some reason I skipped over those notes for the pirate flares completely. And yeah, as I'm sure you guys could tell, I got to after Squid Bear and was just like, hold on, what's going on? Why don't I have these?
Yeah, we did notice you skipped the pirate flares and wondered if it was intentional or not, just if you had something in mind, or if you picked a pirate flare that we'd missed and was planning to do a shop later. But yeah, unfortunate that happened.
Yeah, I can safely say that's never happened before. But I still thought it was still a good race. I couldn't really see on my end how close we were throughout it, but it felt overall pretty good. I know Zic, you're pretty close to where I am, so I felt like it was a pretty even match throughout, and it was still really fun the whole race, even though I did mess up after Squid there.
Yeah, I was just watching the race chat. I wasn't watching the actual restream, but once I defeated the spider, I moved my screen over and I saw you were at the spider. So at least by that point, I know we were pretty close.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure for the majority, you was probably at the most anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds apart. So it was still anyone's game, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah,
go for it.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it was still fun, and just having what I assumed was a pretty even match, and now knowing how close it was, it actually is kind of motivating, like, because I am kind of disappointed in myself because this is now the second run that I've had something bad happen to. The second of this tournament, but I don't know. I'm still having fun with it. So, and overall, I'm thinking these races are still fun, even if I am messing up. So.
Yeah, I understand what I say. It's always a lot of fun to speedrun these games. I mean, you've still got still two more matchups in the group, so it's not over till it's over. So I'm sure you'll be able to regroup, come back, and blaze a trail, shall we say. I'm trying to figure the right words, but English bad for me for some reason.
Yeah. I kind of made a bit of a joke goal on Twitter where I said my goal this tournament is to finish at least one race.
Oh. I'm sure you will, buddy. I'm sure you will. Any final thoughts for either of you?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Did you, Maelin? Sorry about what happened.
No problem, man. It happened. I mean, that was entirely my mistake, so I can't blame RNG for this one.
Fair enough. And if you enjoyed what you saw, as mentioned, we do have another tournament match taking place tomorrow. As well as that, be sure to follow the runners here, putting out a great performance there, keeping up with each other throughout that journey there. Also, be sure to follow my partner on commentary, Majati. He's another fellow runner of the game as well. He knows quite a bit in his short time on the game as well. So, be sure to give all these lovely gentlemen a follow.
Yeah, and make sure you follow Turkey as well. Don't want to leave him out.
It's alright, I don't mind being left out. I've already cursed enough fees today. I think people will probably want to stay the hell away from me. No, with that being said, hope you enjoyed yourself, guys, and be sure to check the schedules and such, and we will catch you next time. So, for now, good night and take care.